Welcome back to Iraqi Dinar Hub, where we keep an eye on all the big moves happening in global finance and currency reform. Lately, things have been heating up in a way we haven't seen in a long time. The vibe around the whole situation feels different, almost like the background noise is turning into something more real. A lot of people who follow these markets closely are starting to feel like we might be stepping into a moment where all the talk and speculation finally collide with actual events. It's the kind of shift that makes you lean in a little closer. Today's focus is on all the chatter about the Tier 4B community and whether notification protocols might be activating. And honestly, for anyone who has followed the Iraqi dinar or Vietnamese dong for years, the atmosphere right now doesn't feel like just another cycle of rumors. Something about this moment feels more organized, more aligned, and more deliberate. What's grabbing everyone's attention right now is the unusual silence coming from sources who are usually pretty vocal. In this corner of currency reform, silence is rarely just silence. It's often a sign that non-disclosure agreements have kicked in and that operational security is tightening up. People who normally drop hints or share small updates are suddenly going quiet. And that shift usually shows up when things move into the sensitive final stages. When insiders stop talking, it means information is being handled through official, controlled channels. That kind of silence tends to show up only when internal testing, confirmations, and security steps are happening behind closed doors. To understand why this matters, it helps to look at what Tier 4B actually is. This group isn't made up of big banks or government officials. It's the online community of people who've spent years learning how monetary reform works. These are the folks who've tracked Iraq and Vietnam's economic moves and understand that a revaluation isn't just a financial flip, but something tied to geopolitics and national rebuilding. The latest reports suggesting that the specific alert codes for this group might now be active are turning heads. If these codes are really live, it would mean that things are shifting from open speculation to a controlled redemption phase that closes the door to the general public. The technical stuff being talked about is adding to the intrigue. People are mentioning unusual behavior on banking platforms, brief appearances of placeholder rates, late-night system syncing, increased account verification, and other back-end activity that doesn't usually happen all at once. These don't sound like the regular maintenance updates banks do every week. They sound more like prep work to make sure everything is stable before a major rate change. When rates pop up and disappear or validation checks get updated overnight, it usually points to a system being tuned up for something bigger. What's catching people off guard is the timing. Most figured nothing major would happen until certain financial cycles finished or after Iraq wrapped up final budget adjustments, but the pace seems to be picking up faster than expected, and it lines up with several major global events happening at the same time. Iraq has been pushing hard to complete its budget work, while the U.S. Treasury has reportedly been finalizing system syncing across different regions. When key milestones all land together like this, it rarely feels random. Vietnam is also stepping up its digital banking upgrades and central bank modernization. Even though most attention usually goes to Iraq, Vietnam has been quietly getting its financial systems ready in a way that looks very deliberate. When two countries with undervalued currencies hit their modernization targets at the same time, analysts can't help but take it seriously. When people talk about codes going live, they're not talking about simple email alerts. These codes refer to encrypted authorization signals managed by financial authorities. They're essentially digital keys that unlock the next phase of the process. Once those keys activate, redemption centers get the green light to prepare internally running checks, confirming staff, ensuring secure systems, and lining up procedures. All of this happens behind the scenes, and the public doesn't see any of it. But the effect is noticeable because the usual chatter disappears, and insiders start locking down information. It's basically the quiet part of the process where everything is being secured before anything becomes public. Looking at Iraq's internal progress gives all of this more weight. Over the past decade, Iraq has been rebuilding its financial systems piece by piece. They've strengthened reserves, cleaned up regulatory frameworks, added digital payment systems, and tightened anti-corruption controls. These aren't small steps, these are the foundational pieces a country needs before a stronger currency can rejoin global markets. Iraq's massive natural resources, especially oil, make its currency's undervaluation feel out of sync with reality. That's why so many people have stayed interested. Iraq has the wealth, now it has the reforms. Logically, a stronger currency becomes the next step. Vietnam has a similar story unfolding. Its manufacturing growth, foreign investment, and supply chain importance have pushed its economy forward fast. And behind the scenes, the government has been modernizing financial oversight, digital banking, and regulatory systems. These upgrades suggest that Dong could eventually reflect a stronger economy. Vietnam's progress isn't just speculation, it's visible, measurable, and consistent. If the reports about notification codes are real, the next steps would probably follow a structured pattern. First, banks would finish their final confirmations. Then more back-end server tests would happen. Internal rate checks would be verified quietly, liquidity would be positioned, and redemption centers would make sure everything is ready. After that, secure notifications would go out. These wouldn't be random emails, they'd be controlled messages with instructions and scheduling links. Once that starts, things would move fast. Tier 4B appointments would begin, and centers would operate at full capacity. That's the moment many people have been waiting for. On a global scale, a revaluation of the IQD and VND would change the economic landscape. Iraq would gain more financial power to fund projects, stabilize budgets, and grow beyond oil dependency. Vietnam would strengthen its position as a major manufacturing hub, drawing in even more investment. These moves would bring both countries more deeply into the global economy in a meaningful way. Of course, we have to stay grounded. Even if things are close, big financial changes always unfold with a lot of checks, confirmations, and slow, methodical steps behind the scenes. Banks take stability seriously. That's why things feel quiet. That's why insiders have gone silent. It's not a lack of movement, it's the part of the process where everything is double-checked before anything becomes public. Official announcements, when they come, will come from central banks or government channels. Rumors can hint at what's happening, but real confirmations will always be formal. Until then, the best approach is to pay attention, stay organized, and be mentally prepared. Many people have spent years following this story, and the emotional toll is real. Having documents ready and having a plan for what comes after the exchange is just as important as watching for updates. This quiet moment, this calm before a possible breakthrough, is something that shows up often in history before major shifts. The lack of noise actually fits the pattern. It often means the gears are turning in places we can't see. A stronger Iraq and Vietnam also support global stability, which gives these reforms even more credibility. The momentum right now feels stronger than anything we've seen in years. Whether we're at the final doorway or just another major step closer, everything seems to be lining up more precisely than it has in a very long time. If Tier 4B notifications are truly rolling out, then the weight could be shifting into action. Stay prepared, stay aware, and stay balanced between hope and realism. Thanks for tuning into Iraqi Dinar Hub. We'll keep you updated as this story continues to unfold.